this is a perfect example. You can't go from 0 to 100 and just go right to the 100, right? I didn't set out with the goal. Okay, like I sat down, I'm in my room, I'm searching the internet, and I'm like, man, I truly believe I can do 100 consecutive Ironmans. Because reality is you can't even conceptualize it. You can't even get to that point without going through a decade of growth and experience to where more becomes possible, right? So 10, 12 years ago now, or 13 years ago, it was like, okay, these are my limits. This is what I think is possible. I'm going to do one Ironman, like one Ironman event. And then you do that and you're like, oh man, that was amazing. I learned so much about myself and the training process. And then all of a sudden more becomes possible. And our journey took us to where I was like trying to raise money for charity. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go break the half Ironman world record. And people are like, well, why would you sell yourself so short and just try for the half Ironman world record? And I'm like, well, because I need the experience. I need the growth. I need to learn these things. Because if I jump right to the full Ironman world record, chances are really high I'm going to fail. And that's why people experience failures, because they're like, boom, I'm motivated, I'm empowered, I'm inspired, I'm going to go do this. And then they're like, well, but I have no experience or business doing that. And people are like, well, just jump in. You'll figure it out. But they jump in and they try to do the task instead of jumping in and learning and educating and experiencing to get to eventually that part. So the 100 for me, 10 years ago when I started this journey, you asked about the first steps. I'm like, I couldn't even think of that as a possibility, because my own limits at the time are based on, and our limits as humans are based on our previous experiences in life. And so you have to go through those steps and knowledge and use those as stepping stones to get you to where you want to go. So that's another one of the big mistakes people make is, one, they're trying to find their passion. Two, they set too big of a goal and rush right to it. They don't respect it. And then they fail. And now they've labeled themselves as a failure. And now you've created that identity for yourself, and you quit. And then you certainly haven't escaped limits. You've put limits on yourself because you've labeled yourself a failure. So for me, it goes all the way back to the beginning, where it was just doing the sport because I loved the sport. It was doing the sport to try to raise money for charity and have an impact on other people. And as we went through that journey of experiencing, I got to experience growth. I got to gain knowledge. And every time we were successful in a campaign, more became possible. And then we would train as hard as we could, fail in training, so that when it comes time to executing, we give ourselves the best chance at winning.
So along the way, physically, you've gone from 50 to 100
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a
yeah.
number of different things in between. And that's measurable. It's like, okay, well, I did 50, all right? And you know how many miles there was in order to do that. But like from a mental perspective, there's definitely been the same amount of mental growth, it seems. Can you identify some of those changes that you have or become or grown into during that journey?
Yeah. I think it's impossible not to grow mentally when you continue to up the ante, or push the ceiling of what's possible. And so mental strength and growth is a byproduct of showing up. I think that's a huge theme here is showing up, right? Taking action and doing. And so, for me, every time we accomplish one of those big goals, you gain that confidence, and you gain what's more important is you gain that self belief in yourself. Because one of the biggest things that I've learned is like nobody believes in you when you're setting these big goals, right? Everybody says it's impossible, and so it's so critical and so important to believe in yourself first on these journeys, and the belief and conviction continues to grow as you have those successes. It's the perfect example of why you don't go from 0 to 100, because you need to gain momentum, and you need to start hashing those wins in the win column. I love to say success breeds success and confidence breeds confidence. And that's why you have to go through the entire process and the journey to continue that growth in the mindset in the physical space. And so, yeah, I hope nobody is the same person in their 30s that they were in their 20s, 50s when they were in their 40s. That means you're just like complacent. You're just going through life. You're not experiencing growth. You're not pushing your limits. And so, yeah, as a byproduct of doing these challenges, mental growth. And every time we have an accomplishment, we grow mentally. And we also, you should take the time to look back on that and go, okay, what went well, what went bad, How do we improve on that? What systems do we need to put in place? And that's really how the Conquer 100 came into play, right? So we did the 50, a lot of criticism, a lot of things we did right, a lot of things we did wrong. The public came out and attacked us. You're a failure. You didn't do this. You made these mistakes. And so it was like, okay, well, this is an opportunity to push the envelope further, erase some of the criticisms that happened in the past, and prove to myself and others that we are who we said we were, and we do what we say we do, and that we're not perfect, and that we're going to make errors as we go through life. And here's what's interesting is when you're the front runner, when you're doing something that nobody else has done, when you're pushing boundaries. I mean, there's 7 billion people in the world, and to be one of one, you're going to take some criticism, and there's going to be some learning even in execution. And I don't believe anybody should have the right to judge how you execute it, as long as you're doing things with integrity, with honesty, and with an open mind and open heart.
It must have been challenging to have a relationship with you, I imagine. You know, a third of your life, a third of a year, you was actually going through the most recent race. You know, it was incredible. You've got, I believe, 5 children. Is that correct?
Yeah, 5 kids currently right now, ages 12 to 19, 4 teenage girls in the home. They also live here. It's an amazing time to be in the Lawrence household.
I bet. And a partner that has been, from what I understand, instrumental in this success. What's that been like? What's the growth in your relationship, or how would you describe what you guys have had to do? Because I guess you've obviously mentally accelerated yourself, and I suppose being with someone, they have been on that journey, and I guess have had to evolve with you. How have you managed that and grown together and been able to sort of go through and also bring up children at the same time?
Yeah, it's amazing, because when we started our journey and started to do these bigger quests or challenges, my kids were super young. And when they're young, they're just along for the ride, and we tried to create fun things for them to do inside and outside of the projects. We just tried to be, as parents, you're learning, right? You don't know what you're doing. That's why they come out as babies. When they come out, they just poop and cry and eat. And most people can manage that. And then you learn as an adult, as the kids grow and develop new skills and things like that. And so, my wife and I, we've just always really communicated what the sacrifice is going to be, what each one of our roles is going to be. And with our kids, we just try to involve them. And my wife and I have just said, look, we're just going to try to set the best example for our kids, and they will pick up on these attributes or whatever it is that lead to mental toughness and hard work and persistence, resilience, and grit, and all those fun buzzwords that are out there. But it's been amazing, because a lot of people don't realize it, because I'm kind of the face of what we do, but my wife is a massive driving force behind it. And she's the one that really pushes the envelope with these and runs the behind the scenes. Like, man, nothing great's ever accomplished on our own, right? And our story is no different. And if anybody who watched the Conquer 100 project, that was my daughter Lucy who ran the entire social media campaign, and it was a full-time job to do that, and to the inner workings behind the scenes of what it takes to do a quarter of a year challenge where it's 24 hours a day, no days off. I mean, that's a huge ask. And like any relationship, it takes work and effort, and you're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to disagree on things. You're going to be stressed at different times of the journey. And we just know that, I mean, we just celebrated 21 years of marriage, and that in itself takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. And to raise 5 kids in today's world, and with all the distractions, and man, I couldn't be more proud of my wife and my kids, and the effort that they do, and their willingness to show up every single day. Because I'm not the Iron Cowboy, we're the Iron Cowboy, and it's a brand, and it's a family journey. And I think we are all learning at different parts of the journey. And it's like life with anybody, right? Everybody's on their own unique journey, whether you're at the beginning, the middle, the end, somewhere in between. You have to go through life and learn these same lessons. And you get to choose how many times something happens to you to where you have to learn that same lesson, and how fast you progress. And so I think myself, my wife, and all my 5 kids, we're all on different parts of our own unique journeys, and we are all learning at different rates. But it's fun to watch the kids participate in the journey. It's fun to watch them pick and choose where they want to participate, how much they want to participate, especially now that they're, teenagers going into adult life. They have their own lives. They have their own dreams, their own ambitions. Like Lucy loves what we do and wants to be part of it. That's my oldest daughter and wants to be, she works for me full time, wants to be part of the whole thing. And I've got a younger daughter who's 13, 14, and she just wants to hang out with her friends. But she sees what we do, she understands what we do, and it allows her to grow, but apply it to her life, right? My kids just have the same mindset that we do. Like, there's no exceptions. You say what you're going to do. You work hard, you play hard, and you just experience and try to find what your passions and what makes you happy.